Hey there and welcome to Cinema Recap. Today, we're recapping the 2008 American sci-fi action film, Jumper. Spoilers ahead. You see, back in high school, he was a normal kid, with a crush on a girl named Millie. She's got a dream to travel the world. So after school one day, he wants to give her a gift. The gift is a snow globe of Paris.
Power move, I swear to God. Hey, who wants to get a
Hey,
shake?
that's enough. Stop.
She's super happy with the gift, but then the school bully, Mark, does his rounds and picks on David. He grabs the snow globe and teases him, letting everyone see. He offers it back to him, but then throws it onto the ice. David goes to get it on the frozen lake, but they're all telling him to stop because it's dangerous. And they were right. As he grabs it, the ice breaks and he falls in.
Forget about it.
Come on, Rice Ball, don't be stupid.
David.
He's pulled by the current, unable to escape. Everyone starts panicking, trying to save him. Now, David doesn't know how, but he winds up transported into the library, drenched. So a young, very confused David arrives home. His father's not the greatest person in the world and doesn't seem to care much about his son's struggles. He runs up to his room and locks the door, but then his father comes and breaks in. And as he gets in, David jumps and disappears. He ends up in the library, but now it's closed. He walks around unsure of what to do and then jumps back to his room. David sees his father outside talking to the cops, but he uses this gift and escapes this life that he hates so much. He grabs his things, a little money, and goes to Millie. He doesn't say hello or goodbye. He just leaves the snow globe on the swing and disappears. So he makes his way to New York City and stays in a sketchy hotel. Immediately, he gets to work and reinvents his life. First things first, he needs to learn how to use these new powers. So he's sitting in the park and tries to teleport, slowly getting the hang of it, albeit not gracefully. He accidentally goes to the Empire State Building after remembering a time he went there with his mother when he was a child. Eventually, he gets bolder with these attempts of jumping. His next attempt? A bank. So he goes into a bank, hoping to scope out the security and sees a comically sized safe. Later that night, he makes his way in and steals a ton of money from inside the safe.
I'm gonna need a bigger...
All while causing some significant damage to the bank. Now, his financial situation may have improved, but now someone's looking into it, and the man they've hired to find the culprit is out for blood. Roland Cox, an NSA agent, enters the bank. He's told they didn't even know that they were robbed until halfway through the day. He seems to be aware of how it happened and isn't even surprised. He tells the bank manager that he wants the names of everyone with a safe deposit box and footage from the entire month. So years have passed now, and David's living the high life in a fancy apartment in NYC. He's been just about everywhere in the world and is having a great time doing it. He jumps to London, where he stands on Big Ben overlooking the city, before heading to a local pub. He goes and hits on a girl at the bar, but jumps his way across the room and another person notices. Griffin watches David. He leaves with a girl from the bar and later, after sleeping with her, jumps to go surfing, but finds no waves in his first location, so he heads to Fuji. And that's when he heads to the Sphinx for lunch. So while he's living the life, Roland is chasing other jumpers in a jungle. He's out for blood, calling him an abomination. He's still trying to chase that bank robber, and when he gets a call that they've got a lead, he's excited to finally head home and catch the man behind that robbery. Now David returns to his building, heads inside when Roland makes his presence known. He tells David not to run, saying that they've been searching for 8 years trying to find the mysterious bank robber. He shows him the notes he left behind, and David immediately says he should speak to his lawyers. Roland tells him that he's not under arrest. Rather, he's more interested in how he robbed the bank. Knowing Roland's not a cop, he feels no need to speak about his actions. He tells David he knows exactly what he is, and as David tries to escape, he gets electrocuted. David tries to break free, but the electricity running through his veins is making it near impossible to commit a jump. Now Roland throws him off the balcony, causing him to fall on his back on the coffee table. He's caught by Roland's device, but still manages to get to his safe room. He grabs money and, in a panic, escapes. Doesn't matter where, as long as he's escaping. Now David ends up at his childhood home, and the noise wakes up his father. His dad runs upstairs and calls out for David, hoping to see his son and telling him that he can come home. Well, his father thinks he's crazy, but before leaving, David tells him that he's not. It's really him.
We have his jump sites.
So David's walking the streets of his hometown, and he goes into Millie's home, and her mom's shocked that all this time her daughter was right. David's alive. She tells him that Millie has a place in a different part of town and works at a bar by her campus, so he goes and visits, hoping to see his old flame. But when he gets there, he changes his mind and decides to leave. Now on his way out, an old high school bully, Mark, never forgets a face and exposes David's presence at the bar. He denies that it's him until Millie calls him out. He says hello as if he wasn't watching her the whole time, and she asks why he didn't greet her. To which he says he didn't notice her, but she calls him out saying that she saw him staring at her for the past 45 minutes. Mark regresses to his old ways, and it's not long before David punches him for groping Millie. Now the two engage in a fight and Mark has the upper hand, but then David accidentally jumps them both to the bank in New York City. He decides to leave him there, which is questionable behavior, and David returns to the bar where he apologizes to Millie for not saying hello as he didn't know what to say to her. She tells him he could have just said, "Hi, how are you?" So he does it now, and the two catch up, all while Griffin from London watches him. Now Millie asks him what his plans are now that he's back, and he tells her that maybe he'll travel and go to Rome. She jokes around and tells him he shouldn't be hijacking her dream, to which he tells her to come with him. Well, she's shocked, but then he convinces her, and the next thing you know, they're in Rome, but this time by plane. Meanwhile, in New York, Roland interrogates Mark. He learns of Millie and pieces together where David's run off to, and intends to retrieve the elusive jumper. Now in Rome, Millie can't shake the feeling that David's hiding something. She knows that he was terrible at math back in school, so when he says he's in banking, she's not buying it. The first-class tickets, the fancy hotel, it all seems too good to be true. She tells David not to lie to her, and he knows he needs to tell her the truth eventually. So the two are getting intimate and eventually go explore Rome. They visit the Colosseum together, but David's completely unaware that Griffin is also there, watching their every move. David and Millie are late to enter the Colosseum, and it's already closed.
No, see, we just want to go.
No,
Just gonna go walk around a bit, yeah?
So he finds another way in, and the two enter the Colosseum in secret. Millie's in awe of the architectural marvel, and then he takes her to the restricted areas. The two come across a door that's locked, so he tells her to wait while he goes and opens it from the other side. Now while walking through the arena, he comes across Griffin. The two are chatting before David continues moving to open the door, but Griffin warns him not to do that if he wants his girlfriend to live. Griffin reveals he's a jumper after David gets up in his face. He asks if David really believed he was the only one, and Griffin tells him that he lived his life thinking what he was doing would never be noticed, but hey, here they are. And then he points across the Colosseum to two men coming at him in an attempt to capture Griffin and David. At first, David gets away, but is quickly lassoed back into the fight. Millie can hear the commotion on the other side of the door. Griffin's far more equipped to beat their attackers, and when he does, he tells David they're paladins. They dispose of jumpers like them. Griffin jumps away and David follows him, and he ends up in Griffin's hideout and sees that he's on a crusade to neutralize paladins. But before he can really understand everything he's seeing, he returns to Millie, and they quickly get out of the Colosseum. And on the way out, David's apprehended by the police while Millie tries to get answers. Now at the police station, David's questioned about the body, but he remains defiant in his innocence. A man walks in to tell the officer that Magistrato had arrived. They all leave the room and a woman walks in. David stands and backs up, shocked at who he's seeing before him, his mother. She tells him they only have 30 seconds before they return. Now David wants to leave and ditch the girl, so he runs out of the interrogation room, and when he runs into the detective, he jumps him to the top of the Sphinx, leaving him there before returning to Millie. David's running through the streets of Rome, far from the police station, dragging Millie with him. She wants to trust him, but is finding it extremely difficult. Now David takes her to the airport and puts her on the first flight home. She tells him that she wants to know what's going on, but David knows telling her will put her in danger. She asks what's in the bag and he shows her all the cash, to which she's extremely shocked to see. She asked where it came from, but he's not telling her. Instead, he tells her he won't be joining her on the flight and that she needs to go home. Now Roland decides it's time to change tactics, so he visits David's father. Pretending to be the IRS, he's asking William about David, when he last saw him, his friends, anything that might help, only to get no useful information. He asks to speak to David's mother, but William doesn't know where she is. Roland sees a picture of her and goes to look at it. asking when the last time he saw Mary was, and he says that she's been gone since David was 5. Now, the picture seems to strike a nerve in Roland as if he knows her. William tries to usher Roland out of his house, but he's become a loose end. Now, David visits Griffin again to learn more about this enemy he didn't even know existed. Griffin's telling him he's been hunting them, taking them out, thinning the herd. He's asking what they want with the jumpers, and he's told that they want jumpers dead because they can do anything they like. The paladins go back to medieval times, taking out anyone who can exist outside of the law. He tells him that it's only a matter of time until all the people David knows and loves are gone because of what he is. So David returns home and finds his father unconscious on the floor. He jumps him to a hospital. They attempt to save him, but he's gone. David leaves and confronts Mark, asking him what he's told Roland. And he's told that Roland knows everything. Well, he jumps back to Griffin's place and looks for information that can help him save Millie before it's too late. Griffin says to leave Roland to him, as he's the toughest one to beat. Now, David knows he has only 8 hours until Millie lands back home, so he tries to join forces with Griffin to take down Roland. But Griffin's not interested and leaves, as David follows. So we're in China, our boy's following Griffin through the streets. He tries to convince him to team up, but Griffin's resistant. So Griffin jumps a car out of the dealership and David joins him. As much as he's not interested in teaming up, he realizes getting rid of David will not be easy, and he reluctantly agrees to team up with him briefly to take down Roland. So they head to the airport where Millie should have landed, but they soon realize the flight had landed an hour earlier than expected. Well, Griffin tells David to find her while he prepares, and they'll both meet at his hideout. So David heads to the bar, but she's not there. A waitress tells him that Roland was just there, and now he knows time is of the essence. It's not like he didn't already know that. Well, he goes to her home, but nobody answers. He jumps into her home and finds her there, about to answer the door. Well, Millie's clearly angry and hurt. David apologizes, but it's not helping. She tells him to leave, but David hears a car pull up and sees Roland get out.
Banking, okay?
No, really?
I mean, the money did come.
Now, with no choice, he has to tell her the truth about everything. He jumps in front of her and she freaks the hell out. Roland and his team are coming in hot, and David grabs and jumps her to Griffin's hideout. Apparently, Roland and his goons have devices that help him see where jumpers jump to. Griffin is angry when he sees Millie there. He tells David that Roland has a machine to track them anywhere in the world when a jump site is fresh. So the two go inside and see the wormhole. They hide as Roland and his men jump through. And while hiding, David's looking at pictures of his mother everywhere. As he walks forward to investigate, they grab him, and Griffin gets the upper hand and escapes to London, where he brings back a bus that nearly takes out Roland. So Millie finds David tied to the walls with electrical rope. As Roland's about to attack her, Griffin steps in and blasts his flamethrower, forcing Roland back to Millie's apartment. He continues blasting away, setting her home on fire. He jumps in, wanting to finish the job. Millie sets David free and asks him to take her home. He agrees and says that he'll leave her alone and that he's always loved her ever since they were 5. But she's too upset to really address that statement. And Griffin returns with the machine, trapping them at her home, but just before they can claim victory, she's captured and pulled through the wormhole to her home, where Roland apprehends her. Now Griffin plans to blow them all up, but David wants to save Millie first. Well, he doesn't see it that way. With a little bargaining power, David jumps himself and the bomb to the Colosseum. Griffin follows, and he tries to negotiate, but it's having little effect. They end up on the top of the pyramid fighting it out, and they fight across the world: Dubai, New York City, Antarctica, and finally a war-torn country. Now Griffin's about to leave with his plan ready to be executed, but David shoves him into an electrical tower, rendering his jumping abilities useless. So David jumps back to Millie's home and is ambushed. They have him in the clutches, electricity running through his body. But David's stronger than he was when he first met Roland. He attempts to jump, causing the building to break apart. As Roland's about to end him, he tells Millie to take a deep breath, and he jumps the apartment to the lake he fell in as a child. Millie breaks free and goes to David before he jumps them out of the lake and into the library, apartment, and all. So Millie wakes up David before Roland makes himself known, and he takes Roland and drops him in Horseshoe Bend, Colorado. And before he leaves, he tells Roland that he could have dropped him with the sharks, but he's not a killer. Not long after a near-death experience, David goes and finds his mother. he learns the truth. She's a paladin who left when he was 5 after David did his first jump. She didn't want to do what she was trained to, so she left. And she tells him that she's given him a head start before saying good luck and goodbye. After all of that, David leaves with Millie to a place that's warm, as per her request. Thanks for sticking through. This was our recap of the film Jumper, released back in 2008 by 20th Century Fox. It starred Hayden Christensen, Jamie Bell, and Rachel Bilson. So, if you had the ability to jump anywhere, where would you go? Let us know with that hashtag cinema recap in the comments. Till next time.